Welcome to Cheap Controls. We make videos on things that we struggled with, hoping to help you so you don't. Consider subscribing and hitting that bell. In this video I'm going to go over the file stream in the Nextion display. I'm planning on making a video on the TW file command in the Nextion display, and that'll create a file on the card or in the RAM, and I'll need the file stream for that. So I thought I'll make the file stream video first, and then I'll follow it up with a TW file video. For this video, it's going to take place in the Nextion display in the IDE and then using the debug tool. I get an error sometimes in the debug tool, and I'm hoping that comes up during the video so I can show it to you. I've set up the basics here. It's just going to be a one-page example. And up in the top, in this T0, I'm going to have the name of the file. Over here, there'll be a number field that will show a pointer information. This is going to be some data we're going to read from the file in this T1 field. And then we're going to read from a file, write to a file, and then we're going to find within a file. I also have this file browser, and all the browser does is shows you the files that are currently in memory. And the thing that does the work is this file stream, and it's down here. And this value here, we'll work with that as we go through it. And that's how you can set where in the file you want to write and read your data from. Up here in the menu, you'll go to this file and you'll set this SD card folder. That's where you'll store the information. And in here I've created a file called CC text. If you go up here and you go back one spot, you'll see it stored in an area if you've left the defaults alone. And you can have more than one location, SD card 0 and SD card 1. What I don't completely understand at this point is when you're referring to it, you'll use SD0 and SD1. And in SD card 0, I have the cc.text. And in SD card 1, I have nothing.text. And I'll show you how to reach both of those in the file browser. So when we load the code, the files that are in a certain location will show up in this file browser. And that's related to this directory right here. And currently it's set to SD0. And that's why I said earlier it's SD card 0 in the Windows file directory. I'm going to run this in debug now, and you'll see the cc.text show up. And you can see that's where we're browsing, is this cc.text. And if I go over here and change this, and run the debug, you can see now that we're looking at the nothing.txt file. For all examples today, we're just going to leave it set to SD1. But if you were playing around and you had a lot of examples, you could set some SD card folders up and have different things for different projects you're working on. And at the beginning of this video, I'm going to have the cc.text file say, just have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 0. So it'll be 10 digits or 10 characters in this file. When you use the file stream, you have to assign a file to it. And we're going to use the browser to do that. You can just type it in if you want, but in our case, we're going to assign it through the file browser. When I click on the browser, I'm going to use the touch release event. And the browser has attributes to it. We're going to set the T0 text to be the file browser directory, and then we're also going to, when we click on it, it will be the browser text that we've last clicked on. In this case, we only have the cc.text file, but if you had multiple ones, it would know that you were clicking on that one, and it'll populate that T0 with the directory and the name. And then we're going to use this read button, and we're going to do something with that when we touch that. If you look here, that you can find, close, write, read, and open. Those are the actions you can have with the file stream. And so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open, and we're going to refer to that T0.text, which should be SD0, and then a slash, and then cc.text. And then we're going to read the first 5 bytes or 5 characters, and we're going to put that into T1.txt. When I first started looking at this, I thought that 0, the the second attribute before the 5, that would be the starting position and the ending position of the file. But it's not that, and I'll show you that in a minute. And when we're done, we have to close the file stream. And it looks like I forgot to change that SD1 back to SD0. And so we're still looking at that SD1 directory. So when I click on it, you can see SD1 and then nothing. I also don't have the text field set to be longer than 10, so I need to change the text field length. And then if I were to hit read, it would read the value into this new text field. But we get an error because SD1/NOTHIN without the .txt doesn't exist. So the read wasn't, or the file stream wasn't able to open that location, so I got an error. So I've changed this text field to 30. I left it in that directory just to see if there is anything in this. I can't remember if I left anything in there or not. If I do read, and no, there's nothing in the text file. So I got an error because I tried to read 5 characters that don't exist. I'll change that back and I'll come right back in here and you'll see cc.txt. And now you see we've got the right file. I'm pointing to the right spot. If I click on it, I get SD0 cc.txt, and when I read, I'm reading the first 5 characters. Now I want to take and adjust this to a 2 instead. So my first thought was I would count over two characters. So I'd either get 2, 3, 4, 5, or it would be 0 based and I'd get 3, 4, 5. But you'll see what happens. So first we click on the name. Then we do read, and you can see the NE. And we got the 5 characters. So what that 2 means is it's going to say how many characters do you want to leave of the old text in that field. And in this case, we're leaving the NE. And then we're doing the next 5 characters. I have yet to figure out exactly why you would need something like this, but I'm sure there's a reason. Now I've changed the code here a little bit, so we're still going to open that text field, or the t0.txt, which is the file name. We're going to read 5 characters and populate the new text. But then we're going to take the fs0.value, which is the pointer. So when I open that text file, as we go through it, when I write the first 5 characters, there's going to be a pointer pointing to character number 6. And that has a value for that, and that's fs0.val. We're going to write that into that n0.val. Then we're going to wait 5 seconds. And we're going to read 3 more characters and overwrite t1.txt. And then we're going to store the value again up in n0.val, and then we'll close it. I'm going to run this now and debug. So now I'll click on the cc.txt, loads it up there, and I'm going to click the read. And you can see that it put 5 over there and it counted to 5. This is 0 based, so it was on the 6. And then the second time we only wrote 3 characters, and it remembered where it was and where it left off, and it wrote 6, 7, and 8, and it moved the pointer over to position 8, which is character number 9. I've set the read back to where it was when we started, and now I'm going to move down to the write command. Now the write portion of this, or the write command, is very similar to the read command. You still open and close the file stream. You still refer to that t0.txt, but in the write now, instead of read, we put what it is we want to write. And then the 0 on this is different than the read. The read was where it started from on the T1, the existing text. This is where it is in the text you want to write. So it's kind of strange that you would not want to write all the text. And then the 4 is the number of characters you want to write. Once again, which is kind of strange because you'd figure you'd want to write what you want to write. And then we close it at the end. So we select it, we'll read it first. So we know we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's more there, but we're only reading those 5 characters. We'll write to it, and we'll read it again. And we've got A, B, C, D, and then 5. So it overwrites. It doesn't insert it. It overwrites what's there. And this is what the file, the cc.txt, looks like now. A, B, C, D, and then 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. In this case, I'm going to set it back. So now we're back to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There is an error state. I'm going to delete this D. So we have 3 characters, and we're going to try to write 4 places. So if I do the read, oh, you see I got an error because there was no file selected. If I hit the name of the file, then hit read, we've got our data. Now if I hit write, I'm going to try to write 4 characters, but there's only 3 characters to write. And now you see I get the ABC, but even if it overwrote the next character with a space, you would still see a 5, because I'm still reading 5 characters, but I don't get that. And what it did is it messed up my text file. So this is a state that you have to watch out for, where you're trying to write more characters than you actually have. There's another case where you can get into this position. The only way I know of to recover from this is to delete the file. I've tried deleting this content and typing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 again, but it doesn't seem to work. So I delete the file. And then just create a new one. And the other state that can cause a similar error is if you put a 1 and a 3. So in this case, we're going to write 3 characters, but we're going to start from the first place. So we're going to skip the A. So essentially, we're only going to write 2 characters. And this is the error that I get. And the only way to recover is to restart the IDE. I'm not sure why that error comes up, and I haven't done extensive work with an actual display on this yet, but I'm hoping it just has something to do with Windows or maybe even my PC. It's a little bit older laptop. So I select the file, I'll hit read to show that we have that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going to write, and then read again, and we just get BC. So we skipped the A, we wrote BC, we tried to write a space, and you can see we got nothing. When we go back to the SD card now, you'll see that the file system or that the text in it isn't correct. And you can see that it's not right. So I'm going to reset this and then we'll move on to the next step. And now we're going to write, but we're going to write in multiple steps. So we'll write AB 2 digits, we'll write XY 2 digits, and we'll write CD 2 digits. And then we'll see what happens. We'll do a read to get our what we have, and then I'm going to write, and then we're going to read again, and you can see it wrote right after another, the A, B, X, Y, and then we'll assume that that's CD. I'm still only collecting the 5. I should probably change that. And that's because we didn't close it, so it keeps that pointer value when I'm writing to this N0 every once in a while. So when it wrote the AB, the pointer was then at the 3rd position. It wrote the XY, it moved the pointer over, and it wrote the CD. And you could continue to do that. And that's how you would write multiple things to the same file. You open it, you write the different things, and then you close it. If you were to open, write, and then close, and then open, write, and close, it would write over what you already had there. Now in this case, I'm going to write a lot of data. Well, not a lot, but a lot for this video. I'm going to try to write 16 characters to the file. Now I didn't take the time to change it, so we'll just write, and you can see that I got an error for 3 of the writes. We'll read it and it stayed the same because I left the text the same, but we'll look at it in the SD card. And you can see that we got A, B, X, Y, C, D, E, F, G, and H. What happened was I was trying to write 3 extra sets of characters to it that it couldn't accept. And so you can't expand the size of the file. So if you want to use a file in this, you have to create the file first, make it the length that you want it to be, and then write the data to it. Try to add later, you'll be stuck with a file of a certain size. I set the write back to the first set we had that we know works to write the A, B, C, and D over, and I reset that cc.txt file back to 1 through 9 and then 0. We're going to go down to the find next. Now the find looks for something within that text file, And in this case, we're going to look for a C. If it finds it, it's going to set the file pointer, or that fs0.val, to that location. And we're going to write that to n0.val. Now for our first test, we don't have a C in it. But then if we do a write, we'll get a C in it. So I'll click on the file. I'll do a read to make sure that's what we have in there. And then I'm going to do a find. And you can see that this up here stayed 0 because it couldn't find that C. But if I do a write and then a read, now we know we have a C. And it's 0 based. So it would either come back with a 2 if the find records a 0 based location, or a 3 if not. And it came back with a 2. So it's pointing to that location because it found the C. Now this time what we're going to do is we're going to find the C, and then we're going to set it in that value so know where it is. And then we're going to read the text. And we're going to do all this between the open and close. So when we read the text, we're going to read 3 characters out of it. I'm not going to give it away. See if you can guess what you think will happen. Now in this case, we don't have to read anything. It's all going to take place in the find. And we got C, D, and 5. Because what it did is it moved it to that position, to the C. It skipped A and B and it moved it to C. And then we read out 3 characters. Now for this part, I'm going to make the CC text 1, 2, 3, C, 4, 5, 6, C, 7, 8, 9. And then I'm going to change my find code to find a C. It's going to change that value in N0, and then it's going to read the next 3 characters. Then I'm going to wait 5 seconds, and I'm going to find C again, and I'm going to put that value up in N0, and I'm going to read out another 3 characters. Do you think it will show the same 3 characters? So I've loaded it. I'm going to hit find. C, 4, 5. That makes sense. That's what we had before. But then it moved up to the next C and got 7, 8. So in this way, if C was our delimiter, let's make it a colon or something between data, and we incremented this val by 1, which I've done here. So after I've collected the val, I've incremented it by 1, then we're going to read the next 3 characters. So now when I run this, like I said, pretend that the C is a delimiter between 3-digit numbers. What we got is 4, 5, 6, and then 7, 8, 9. So you could group your data and have some sort of delimiter between them, and then just keep looking for that delimiter and reading out the next value. Hopefully you can see where that could come in real handy. Now for this next step, we're going to kind of combine a lot of different things. So we're going to find the C, we're going to change that value, we're going to read out the next 3 characters, which should include the C, but then we're going to write a Q. Then we're going to find C again and do the same thing where we read out those characters. And my question is, where is that Q going to be written? So I'll hit find. We got the C45 and the C78, but we wrote that Q somewhere in that text field. So I'm going to hit read, and we know it's going to read the first 5 characters. Well, it's not there. So now let's go to the SD card and open the file itself. And you can see it wrote it after the 5. And that kind of makes sense because it showed C45, so that meant the value pointer at that point was sitting at 6. We wrote the Q, and then our next command was to find the next C, and then we wrote those 3 characters, C, 7, 8. So you can combine all this stuff to write data in different spots. You could count to certain delimiters, like if C was a colon, you could go to a certain spot and then overwrite some characters. The file stream is fairly functional, and I've been looking for a way to store data from records, or at least I get a lot of requests for this. And to be honest with you, I really didn't know how to do it or the best way to do it. But now that I've looked into this file stream, I think it'd be a really good thing for this. The only problem is it only works on the intelligent displays. which I find kind of disappointing because some of the enhanced displays do have SD card slots. For this video, just a quick recap, I guess. I went over the read, the write, and the find. So you have the read command, which reads the open file stream and writes the data to the location that you've said, in our case t1.text. And then where do you want to start that position? I started it at 0, but you could do it anywhere. And then how many characters do you want to write? The write command can get you into a little bit of trouble because it writes whatever it is you tell it to write, and then where you want to start in the data that you want to write. Like in our case, we're going to start at A and write B, C, and D, but if I put 1, it would just be B, C, D. If I put 2, it would be C, D. So you have to be kind of careful on this one, because if that last character, in that case 4, doesn't write 4 characters, it can break your file. And then the find is simple. It just looks for something in the string, and then it sets the pointer to that. And that's the other thing that I went over on this video, and that's the value, fs0.value, which is the file stream pointer. But the minute you close it, it sets it back to 0. But that pointer, I think, is probably the most useful tool in this, because you can assign that pointer. I could set fs0.val equal to 15. If you knew your delimiter was every 3 bytes or every 4 bytes, and you knew you wanted the 5th one in there, you could do some math and just set that pointer to wherever you want and pull that data out of that file. My next video is going to be over the TW file, which we're going to write data from the Arduino or the ESP32 up to the Nextion display, and then we'll be able to use this file stream to then show that data on the display itself. Well, that's about it for this video. If you like what you saw, consider giving me a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to the channel. Thanks for watching.